listening to a Brawl Network production. This is a podcast for the best fans in the NFL.
Are you in the Mafia?
Am I in the what?
It's time for a Bills Brawl podcast.
Second down and going. Kelly with the time. Touchdown! Bills Brawl. Allen. Deep shot. Touchdown! On the line to Stephon Diggs. And Thurman breaking tackles at the 22. Inside the 10. Touchdown Buffalo.
Another episode of the Bills Brawl indeed. I'm Mike Lindsley, and you can get us on Twitter at Bills Brawl. And of course, if you've seen me on Twitter, I recently had just an unbelievable week. I don't know what happened with Twitter. I'm mystified. I'm frustrated. I'm super ticked off. I was locked out last Friday out of nowhere. Been trying to do tickets and appeals, get the account back. 10 years of building the account. And, getting verified on Twitter, 6,000 plus followers, grassroots marketing, all that stuff. So if you're trying to find me again, what I've done is temporarily and possibly for good changed my account over. I was running Pinstripe Passion on Twitter as well, and I just made that into my new Mike L Sports handle. So I'm now at Mike L Sports 1979. At Mike L Sports 1979. If I get my old account back, we're good. Just pick up right where I left off. And then I switched this one back to Pinstripe, and we're all good too. But I figured this one had a little bit more of a backing. It had, over 1,000 followers. Building back up, I'm not sure. I don't know at this point, but you can get me there as well. So I recently had Doug Flutie on the ML Sports Platter podcast, the former Buffalo Bills quarterback. We talked about so many awesome things about why he would thrive right now. Doug Flutie Jr. Foundation. We talked about his battle with Rob Johnson and the Bills. We talked about so many awesome things. I'm going to plug that interview into this Bills Brawl as a little crossover type of a thing, because when I got Flutie, I wanted him really for Bills Brawl and ML Sports Platter, and I've been doing a little bit of the cross-promotion thing here off and on lately. I think it's good. I think people who miss something inside the Bills Brawl, everybody knows that I'm also talking a little bit of NFL and a little bit of Bills on the ML Sports Platter. So it's a definite must-listen with Doug Flutie. Just amazing stuff. Talked about Bills Mafia and falling in love with the fan base and his career, and he broke down the Hail Mary and everything. So it'll be a really great interview for you to listen to. Before we get to that interview, I wanted to break down the Bills' first-round pick only. As I record this on Friday, we await for the rest of the rounds. I'm going to do a full, Bills recap of all of their picks and the like. But I wanted to focus in on the first one because I feel like the fan base really was one of two ways. It was, I don't really give a crap what Brandon Beane does, right, because I trust him and just take the best player available. The other one was, please don't take a running back. Please don't do this. Please don't do that. We've got to draft need. Which is crazy to think about because they were becoming obsessed with the need part when Brandon Beane never really historically drafts for need in the first and second rounds. And guess what he did? He drafted a need in the first round. That's why the mock draft is an absolute crapshoot. In fact, remember all the mock drafts that had 5 quarterbacks in the top 9, 5 in the top 10? Well, that didn't happen. 5 in the first 15 happened. Now, is it that far off of a pick? No. But the point is, it wasn't correct. And look at all the other different things that happened with this draft. Some people predicted Trey Lance going to North Dakota State. Most did, going to 49ers at 3. Most didn't, though. Most didn't. They had Mac Jones there. Some had Justin Fields wiggling in. We knew LSU was between Penei Sewell and Jamar Chase. That was pretty much in. But other than that, everything kind of was open, and we had trades. We had the Eagles and Cowboys, division rivals, trading. We had the Bears jumping up for Justin Fields. So you just don't know. You really just don't know. I got to say, though, before I move on to Gregory Rousseau out of Miami, the defensive end for the Bills, I mean, how about the Jacksonville Jaguars? I mean, they go get Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne, and just keep those guys together, I mean, that's, they've got an automatic jolt into their franchise with impact possible generation players at two positions. Possible. A lot of Bills fans wanted Travis Etienne. Some who didn't were kind of nervous about the comparisons to one C.J. Spiller from years back. I think they're two totally different players. I also think Travis Etienne's a lot better catching the ball out of the backfield. I was okay if the Bills took him. I was pretty much okay with anything Brandon Beane does. I kind of fell in that camp. But I did not want them to trade up for a running back. Didn't want him to do that. Not trade up for it. If he was landing there in your lap, okay. But trade up, no. I need draft assets. I need to build my rookie contracts back. And you can do that with Gregory Rousseau. This guy he's a blend defensive end. The word that comes to mind is blend and current. He's a modern, blended, prototypical edge defensive guy. 6'7", 266, few inches taller, few pounds lighter, and he has an outstanding blend of major top-end speed with a motor, size, length. He can go on the inside as well, and he's a matchup nightmare there because he has all the tools to develop into a guy who can split offensive lines, and he can produce immediately for the Bills, and he can produce in the future for the Bills. He's got strength, he's got length, he can press blockers off the frame. He's got a real great potential, especially in this defense with Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott. And we know Jerry Hughes is a better pass rusher than most people would put on the numbers as far as sacks go. But the Bills, as we know, last year had problems generating pressure when they rushed 4 or fewer, and they had to bolster the pass rush up front no matter what. They had to get a DN somewhere. They had to get an edge guy somewhere. And here you have a guy who fits. He fits the bill. He should push for a starting job opposite Jerry Hughes. He's a big-time athlete. He's going to be perfect fit for this defense. Again, the word blend comes to mind. The word modern defensive end, the words modern defensive end come to mind. And I just think this is a great thing for the Bills. I think this is going to be a really nice pick. I actually went into the first round with an open mind for the Bills. I thought to myself, geez, you know what? Like, I would actually be happy with a lot of guys in the draft. Seriously, I would have been happy if the Bills took Joe Tryon out of Washington, who was jumping up big boards. I know Ryan Talbot had that, pick for a while. I would have been happy if the Bills took Greg Newsome II if he was available from Northwestern. I would have been happy with Eric Stokes from Georgia. I would have been happy with, I don't know if I would have been happy with Travis Etienne, the running back of Clemson, but knowing that Brandon Beane knows what the hell he's doing, can't get really that mad about it, right? Like, I would have been fine with a lot of guys in this draft, and you had... I would have been okay with Caleb Farley, who ended up going 22nd for Virginia Tech. I would have been okay with, the Bills. One of the things that was talked about was the trade up or the trade down. As the draft was going on, I felt more likely that the Bills were going to trade down. And then I changed to trade up. And then I was like, no, they're just going to stay where they're right at like 24, 20. I was like, no, that's probably it. Because here's the thing. I didn't want them to trade up to get, let's say, trade up from 30 to 25 just to get Travis Etienne. And that's exactly where Travis Etienne went. He went at 25. I didn't want them to trade for like 24 just to get Caleb Farley. My thing was, if you're going to trade up, just bring the house. Go big or go home. If you're going to trade up, you might as well shoot your load and trade all the way up and try to get J.C. Horn. Trade all the way up and get Kwity Paye, right? Something of that magnitude. But again, that wouldn't have been my first choice. But what I'm getting at is that if you're talking about trading up and what the options are, I'd rather trade up way, way up than trade up just a little bit to get a guy, who might be a little bit less of a monster impact guy who can play right away. The Bills stay pat, positioned to start building rookie contracts again. This is a perfect blend player. This is a perfect fit for them. It's a need. It's a want. It's a guy in Greg Rousseau, I think, is a player who's going to give you the short term and the long term as well, which I think the Bills have to start looking at that because of the salary cap situation, the upcoming Josh Allen contract, all the things that are going on. They bring in this guy, and I'm sure they did their background checks. They know who he is. He's a high character guy. I don't even need to look at stuff and read stuff because I trust Brandon Beane that much, Sean McDermott. But that's what we're dealing with here with the youngster from Miami and the Buffalo Bills. I think it's a really good pick. I really do. And the short and long-term thing is a real thing right now, and that's what NFL teams have to face. And it was nice to have to wait for the Buffalo Bills to pick. When you draft, number 30, you're pretty good. You were pretty good last year. We're not used to that in Western New York. So pretty good stuff for the Bills here with the 6'7", 266 defensive end out of Miami, Gregory Rousseau. Just that end speed, length, size, versatile, blend, short-term, long-term, great fit, need and want. Hey, checks all the boxes. He really does. Great job by the Bills here with Gregory Rousseau out of Miami. So as mentioned, I talked to Doug Flutie on the ML Sports Platter recently. Let's do a little crossover here. Here's my interview with the former Bills quarterback, the CFL legend, the football legend. Well, we're going to talk Flutie Flakes, Rob Johnson battle, Bills Mafia, why he would thrive in today's game, the Hail Mary, his days at BC, what he's doing with the Doug Flutie Jr. Foundation, how that's built up, his media career, now his new podcast, which is outstanding as well, and a must-listen. Here is football great Doug Flutie.
Hi, this is Jay Billis of ESPN, and you're listening to the ML Sports Platter.
The ML Sports Platter back with you all over the major platforms, Spotify, Google, Apple, Stitcher, Deezer, you name it. Download, subscribe, leave feedback, and a 5-star review. We are brought to you by our great friends at Bryant and Stratton College, Brian Conboy of Mass Mutual, New York State, and Stanley Law Offices. Together, they'll work to get you the maximum award. Log on to StanleyLawOffices.com for more information. You can hit me on Twitter at Mike L. Sports and on Instagram, Mike L. Sports 1979 as well. Our next guest is so decorated it isn't even funny. Won the Heisman Trophy in 1984. He's a member of the College Football Hall of Fame, the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, played for a potpourri of teams in the NFL, including the Buffalo Bills, where Flutie Flakes were made so famous, and of course the CFL resume is incredible. A 3-time champion, a 3-time MVP, a 6-time most outstanding player, a 6-time All-Star. He's also an NFL Pro Bowler from 1998 and an NFL Comeback Player of the Year winner in 1998. It is Doug Flutie. Doug, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on.
I'm doing good. Hanging out down in Florida. Pretty normal life right now for COVID era. We get to be outside a little bit and surf and mess around, so things are pretty good.
Yeah, you're big right now into a lot of that, a lot of activity, right? Baseball leagues, surfing, all sorts of stuff.
I can't help it. I'm like a 12-year-old kid. I coached Little League last night. We got a game tomorrow morning. Okay. Then I'm on my own. I'm back into hockey, and I'm surfing in the mornings, and it's just one activity after another, which is the way I like it.
When's the last time you chucked a football?
Actually, about a week ago, I had, there's another activity. For Super Bowl, I did a cornhole tournament with some of the pros, okay. Like you get paired up with the pro and did a tournament. So anyway, Matt Guy, who's like the number one king of cornhole, 9-time world champion. He and his family were in town, so we were down the ball field throwing the football around a little bit.
Okay, today's NFL, I'm watching all these guys, undersized, running around, throwing the ball everywhere. Mahomes, Wilson, Kyler Murray, Drew Brees, a little bit more stationary, a little bit more in that pocket, but again, height a little shorter. I mean, I could go on and on. Lamar Jackson, I can go on and on and on. Josh Allen's a big dude, but he runs and throws.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I've been barking up this tree for at least, I don't know, a year, maybe 2 years. I think Doug Flutie today thrives. Do you?
I would love the opportunity. Let's put it that way. I love the style of offenses. It's a lot of it is very similar to what we were doing in Canada when I was in Canada.
Sure.
Spread them out, use the quarterback as a runner, throw some, your blitz control was always wide receiver screens, get them in space. A lot of the stuff that's going on now. In my day, they really didn't want to run the quarterback that much. We were afraid of him getting hurt. And all these guys are so darn athletic, you got to let them take off and go. So and when you spread the field, it deletes the pass rush a little bit as far as numbers, and your vision's better. You're back in shotgun. You can get further away from the pass rush and see better. Mahomes just moving backwards and making it's all stuff that I kind of did. And actually, when we were in Buffalo, we did some of it. We did some empty sets. We did do some 5 wides and tinkered with some of it, not to the extent that it's going now, but a little bit. We sort of had a hint of it.
Well, I just look at it and I see Doug Flutie. I see it all the time. Obviously, was a huge fan of yours and still am. I'm a diehard Buffalo Bills fan. Live in Central New York, but been in media for 20 years, and I went to St. Bonaventure for college, and it's only an hour and 15, 20 minutes, so we had campus activity board trips up there, and I would see you, and obviously the number one controversy, you versus Rob Johnson during that time. I was at Bona's 98 to 02. When you became a Buffalo Bill, 2-part question. When did you fall in love with Bills Mafia and the franchise, the town, etc.? And then when do you think that you earned their respect?
Well, I think right away when we went to training camp, we were in Fredonia the first year, then we moved over to St. John Fisher, but both places, the numbers of people that were showing up to training camp, the crowds, the fanatics, the fanatical way that they supported that team, it was awesome. Then when I began playing, the Flutie Flakes thing was coming out and all that, but I did an appearance down in Rochester, and it was supposed to be a 2-hour autograph signing. I ended up signing for almost 4 hours, and I still didn't get through half the people. And it just showed me how crazy they were about the Bills, how excited they were. I mean, people, the one I always use is on home games, they show up to the parking lot on Wednesday night in RVs and are camping out. They're like they go on vacation to the stadium for the week. And it just, I think I earned the respect when I stepped on the field and became a starter and we started winning. And, a couple games in, 3-4 games in, people realized that we were, I don't know, the team stepped it up a notch when I was in there and we played well. And I just, for me, I think validation came in going to a Pro Bowl that season and leading the Bills to the playoffs that year.
Football great Doug Flutie, our guest here. I'm Mike Lindsley, of course, College Football Hall of Famer. Just such a decorated career and now doing some amazing things in media, including a brand new podcast called the Flutie Flakes Cast. Make sure you get it on SiriusXM and where podcasts are found on your mobile device. When did you first fall in love with football?
Oh, geez. I know the first organized football, I was 7 years old playing flag. And I realized that I could just pick up a football, and throw it like I do a baseball and just turn it loose. But there are pictures of me like at 2 and 3 years old falling asleep with a football under my arm and messing around. We were always in the side yard playing football. I have 2 brothers. My sister's the oldest. She would join us, and we hated playing with her because she was a little bigger than us. She was the oldest, and she was impossible to get to the ground. But we were always outside playing. I think it all stemmed from playing with my brothers. Every sport, you name it, we did everything together as kids. And I never saw myself as a football player until I got to college. I was just an athlete. I played all sports, and it was like whatever's next. I played football, basketball, baseball through high school, but like I said, I had hockey this morning. whatever it is, surfing, you name it. It's like, that was me. I always wanted the next activity. But then, when you get after high school, you're talking scholarship and all that, and football kind of chose me as the one that the scholarship opportunity came.
Yeah, and I mean, Division 1A schools, there was only one, right, that really, really went nuts over you, and it was BC. You go there and exceed expectations, exceed anything you probably could have ever imagined. 1984, I mean, my gosh, was there an award that you didn't win? And the famous, the famous play, of course, to beat Miami. Your BC career, you felt it when? When was it taken off for you to get to that ridiculous level that you were playing at? Eventually, you had your number retired by the school as well.
Yeah, I just, I was lucky to get I was an Ivy League type kid. I was a smart kid, did well in school, and I was a really good athlete, but not a D1 kid. And BC had a coaching change in the middle of the offseason. The two kids that the new staff really wanted to sign went elsewhere, so they offered me late. So I really felt lucky to be there. I felt lucky to be at a D1 program, and I felt like I'd never see the field. But athletically, when I got to camp, I felt like, I throw the ball as well as these guys. Yeah, these guys were like 6'3", 6'4". I just had this impression and been told you weren't going to do it. And then we were playing at Penn State, and I came off the bench in the fourth quarter of the game, and I completed my first 5 passes, and we were in the end zone. And I was like, you know what? It's the same game it's always been. And that was the thing. There was this, everybody telling you how difficult it's going to be, just like they did when they, talking about me going from college to pro. And then you step on the field, and it's the same game you've always played, because you don't know what the game is like at 6'4". It must be easier. No, there's got to be a little easier for a guy 6'4", 6'5". Yeah. But with your athleticism at a smaller size and your quickness, there's some advantages. Now, today, like looking at Josh Allen, these guys that are 6'5" can take off and run. These guys, they're not statue. They're athletes, so they can do the other stuff too. So it's just crazy now. But, I only knew the game from my perspective and just went out and played. And, freshman year, the light went on and things started happening, and I got to start for 4 years. That
play, the Hail Mary in '84, Kozar in Miami, I mean, they're a juggernaut. They're a powerhouse brand in football. The U, it's developing and all the rest. You throw that ball, Phelan catches it, and you win 47-45. As that play is unfolding, did you feel it at all, or were you just trying to get away and chuck it and say, well, if we get lucky, cool, but I don't know, who knows?
Yeah, a couple things about now. Earlier in the year, we ran a Hail Mary at the end of the half against Temple. The only other time we attempted one that year, and it looks identical to the one in Miami. Huh. I drop back, I avoid the rush, roll right, step up towards the line of scrimmage, throw the thing about the same exact distance, and Gerard catches it for a touchdown at the end of the half. So against Miami, we all we practice this play every Thursday or Friday, whatever day, and you just, it was like running another play. Now the odds are tough, but all I was trying to do was get the ball near Gerard, and he had a knack for finding the ball, and it happened. The funniest new update on the Hail Mary play, 35 years later, right? We're doing all these. Every year they do an anniversary thing where they're doing interviews and some articles written, something's put together, and I saw some new footage I hadn't seen before. And there's a picture of the backside. Now, after I complete the pass, we get to the locker room, and I told the tight end, who was supposed to be in protection, I said, just go ahead and release. They're only rushing 3 guys. Release, get wide, and go down the sideline. Get down there. And I was going to roll right and maybe pick back, but I didn't have time. I rolled right, set up, fired for Gerard. He catches the ball. We win. 35 years later, I see a different camera angle. Well, after the game, the tight end came up to me and said, hey, we had a shot. I'm like, oh, yeah, right. All receivers say they had a shot. Well, 35 years later, different camera angle. There's the tight end all by himself at the 10-yard line on the backside. If I had put my foot in the ground, turned around, and thrown backside, he would have walked in the end zone.
Wow. I mean, it's just such an unbelievable play in college football history. Doug Flutie, our guest, football great, at Doug Flutie on Twitter, and make sure you donate as well to Doug Flutie Jr. Foundation.org. You can place your donation there and download the Flutie Flakes cast, which is taken off like crazy here, Doug. You're so good media-wise. You know, I've enjoyed you for years on NBC and elsewhere, and obviously now with this podcast, you've had some unbelievable guests here. Tim Tebow, I was around him a little bit in Syracuse when he was with the Syracuse Mets. You've had Ian Book on, Julian Edelman, I believe, a few other, Dan Fouts, who's a great guest, Gronkowski, Drew Brees. You're having a blast with this thing.
Oh, my God. It's been so much fun. Archie Manning, Kurt Warner.
There you go. Jim
Dan
Kelly,
Fouts.
too. Yeah.
You know, we start talking, and you know what's really been fun is talking with the old-time quarterbacks, guys like Dan Fouts, Archie Manning. We start talking about the old days. And we start talking with Warren Moon. We start talking about CFL days and old locker rooms, and right away, like the intensity level, we just pick up we get giddy like a couple. Oh, remember Saskatchewan's locker room? Yeah, they had like a 2x4 on the wall with nails sticking out. Those were your lockers. You had a nail sticking out of the wall. That's where you hung your suit. And then they had like in Winnipeg 6 showers, 6 shower heads, and only two of them would work. And in Winnipeg would turn off the hot water to the opposing locker room to save money. You know, it was just all these little stories about CFL Day. And then I was talking with Archie about the old days of Baltimore Memorial Stadium, and just really cool stories that I don't know. It was just a cool. The other thing we were all talking about is guys that used to smoke in the 70s. There's some classic pictures of like Lenny Dawson with the Chiefs at Super Bowl smoking a cigarette on the sideline. And Dan Fouts was talking about how one of his offensive linemen in the middle of a drive during a timeout would run to the sideline because their offensive coordinator smoked on the sideline and take a drag off his cigarette and give it back to him and run back on the field. My first home game was New Jersey Generals, and I walk into the locker room, there's 8 guys smoking cigarettes in the corner of the room at halftime. So it's just different eras, different times, different things, and a lot of fun stories.
Flutie Flakes, when did you feel like they were really taking off? And do you remember how it all started? You know, did you get a call? Was it an idea? How did it all begin?
We talked with PLB Sports. I was still in Toronto. I was a free agent. I hadn't signed. I assumed I was going to re-sign in Toronto, and I hadn't signed with Buffalo yet. And I signed this marketing deal with PLB Sports to do some type of product. We hadn't decided yet. They asked my opinion. I said, let's do some kind of a frozen pizza because I love frozen pizza. And then they came back to me with, well, you know, the profit margin on a breakfast cereal is the best for us. Can we do a breakfast cereal? I'm like, yeah, sure. What do you like? I like Frosted Flakes. Let's do something like that. All right. So then we do the, and this is just a marketing deal for me. And then Buffalo comes calling. I sign with Buffalo. Now they're trying to hurry it up and get it out in the beginning of the season, and it's a delay, and it doesn't come out till like week 6 or something. And it just happened to time up with when I started playing. When I came off the bench and started playing and became the starter, Flutie Flakes finally were released. And, you know, the whole phenomena that took over in Buffalo when we started winning, and the Flutie Flakes came out, and then Chris Berman's eating them on TV. Yeah. And, you know, it just exploded. Doug
Flutie, our guest football great. A few more for you here, Doug. Make sure you guys go to Twitter and give him a follow at Doug Flutie and donate at the Doug Flutie Jr. Foundation.org website. Flutie Flakes cast all over the place on major platforms as well as Sirius XM. Young quarterbacks today, we talked a little bit about them. You brought up Josh Allen. You must have had a ball watching the Bills in 2020 and watching Josh Allen. Go through this year, you know, the excitement watching those games, and what do you see when you watch Josh Allen?
You know, I saw him last year, or the year before, and I thought big arm, love his intensity, love the way he plays. He, like me, you have to learn to give up on a play. He was turning the ball over, and this is what I did. My turnovers came because I didn't want to give up on a play. You keep scrambling, you keep going, you still try to force something down the field. And all of a sudden this year, less of those mistakes were happening. His running ability, his willingness to put his shoulder down and run hard, and for a guy his size to run as well as he does, those were the variables. You know, extending plays and making big plays downfield. He could make every throw, and that was never a doubt. Yeah. And, you know, that the exciting part was not turning the ball over as much, and then his intensity and the way he played. Just, the willingness to be tough and run with the ball. And the guys, it's amazing how that plays to your offensive linemen and your teammates. And when they see, for me, it was for a little guy run hard or take some hits or whatever. For your quarterback to put his shoulder down and run hard and make plays and be willing to throw his body around, they really respect that. And I really, it didn't happen this year, but I really thought it could have. I really, there was a fine line. I don't think the Bills in general played their best football in the playoffs, but we're still right there. If they played their best football, they had a real shot at maybe going all the way. It's exciting because Josh is young. The team is young. I really think they're going to be good for a little while now.
Can you imagine what would ever happen if that team won it all? Could you imagine? I mean, Doug, that city, what's left of it if they win it? I mean, could you imagine? Seriously.
It would just be able. They live for the Bills. I said this when I played there, and I say it, when I mention things like people in their RVs at the parking lot on a Wednesday night through Sunday, they live for the Bills. They want to be a winner, so the city deserves a winner. Like, these people are diehard fans. You're dealing with weather. They embrace the weather. It's part of who they are. You go out in the park, or on the way in, you're driving in, and in the parking lot, you got bonfires going and shirtless people and the toothless wonder sometimes. But, I don't know what it makes people take their shirt off when it's like 10 degrees out, but it's a pride thing. Well, I know why.
Yeah, right.
We know why.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's so much fun, and the people deserve a winner, and that town would just go nuts again if they ever got there.
What are you most proud of?
I just think my approach to the game, the way I played it, how hard I played. I was very proud of the fact of coming back to the NFL and getting to a Pro Bowl and what we did in Buffalo in those years and making the playoffs and all. But I guess, to play 21 years, I guess that's part of it. And Steve Grogan said this about me. It's like, they asked him why is Doug still playing at 43 years old. He's like, he's still trying to prove himself. He's still trying to prove people wrong. And I think that was the motivating factor throughout for me that kept me driven. And I just, I wouldn't change a thing. I spent 8 years in Canada, wouldn't change a thing.
I got one more, and then I want to hit your foundation in the last minute, and I'll let you run. This has been amazing. Doug Flutie, football great here with me, Mike Lindsley. The Rob Johnson, Doug Flutie thing. I mean, the competition was there. Buffalo was probably literally split down the middle with it, right? It was a crazy time. What did you enjoy the most about that particular competition with him, and what really pissed you off?
Well, that wasn't fun. That's not a good situation when there's a indecision of who the number one is, and I just was trying. The problem was that he made a lot more money than I did.
Yep.
I was outplaying him. It created an uncomfortable situation.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what happened. And I went all year long, and we make the playoffs, and they sit me down and rest me the last week of the season and wind up starting Rob in the playoffs. That was very frustrating, very disappointing, but I still felt at the end of the day, we were a darn good football team, and we were going to make a run at this. And I thought it would take both of us, whether it's through one of us playing poorly or getting injured or banged up. It was going to take both of us to get to where we wanted to go. And it just all of a sudden fell short in Tennessee, in Nashville.
So that's ultimately probably the positive out of it, is it, the competition spurred you guys, having a really good team and you having that belief, really.
The positive is you have two guys that you believe you can win with. But other than that, it creates a tough situation. And, I don't know. To take a pause, you're going to it's not like one guy should go out and not play well so that makes the other guy happy. You can't do that. So everybody's out there trying to win a football game, and that's just the way it was.
All right, final thing in the minute we have left, the Doug Flutie Jr. Foundation for Autism. People can make donations there, FlutieFoundation.org, one of the few links to get you there. I know how important this one is for you, and you guys have just continued to do great things with it. Why don't you highlight it for my listeners?
It's been 23 years in running, and it's unbelievable because when we started it, we thought it was going to be a regional thing. It kind of timed up with when I came to Buffalo. Jim Kelly had his foundation for Hunter's Hope and his son Hunter and Krabbe's disease. So that's where it sparked the idea to start a foundation in my son's name, and Jim and I are still good friends. We do 4 or 5 major events, and with the way Zoom took off during the pandemic, we do virtual events now too. Last year was, believe it or not, a scary year, but ended up being a great year for us for the foundation because it was very easy to do events, virtual events, and it's been an amazing support system. What we thought would just be a little regional thing in the New England area became regional, and the Buffalo area has been fantastic for us, and the Flutie Flakes alone have brought in close to $2 million.
That's amazing. Won a Heisman Trophy in 1984, a storied career with the Boston College Eagles, of course, and collected a ton of other awards in 1984. A college football Hall of Famer, plenty of teams in the NFL, a great career in the CFL, 3-time champ, 3-time MVP, former Buffalo Bill, and now doing amazing things in the media world, including Flutie Flakes Cast. It's a brand new podcast out on SiriusXM and major platforms where you get your podcast. Make sure you download and subscribe to that. And he's on Twitter at Doug Flutie. Doug, thank you a million. Really appreciate this.
My pleasure.
The ML Sports Platter is brought to you by Liverpool Physical Therapy, Rosie's Corner, Bryant and Stratton College, and our great friends at Camillus Golf Club. Go ahead and log on to Camillus Golf Club's website. That's CamillusHillsGolfClub.com. Get your 2021 membership today. Go play Camillus if you're in and around Central New York and the great state of New York. Making some travel plans. Go play it. It's terrific. The views, the greens, you name it. Awesome championship holes and a great place to go. In the pro shop, they are now fully equipped with your Under Armour apparel and burgers and sandwiches and wraps and all the rest after your round as well. Camillus Hills Golf Club, CamillusHillsGolfClub.com. Camillus Golf Club, the official golf course of the ML Sports Platter. A big tip of the cap thank you as well to Barks and Rec Doggy Daycare and the Swan and Whitaker families. I'm Mike Lindsley. You can get this podcast all over the major platforms. Download, subscribe, leave feedback, and a 5-star review. I'm on Twitter at Mike L Sports. And as I always tell you, enjoy the games.